everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of the Empowered Psychology platform. And today we have a very special guest. So Katelynn Tripp is a dear friend of mine, and she is an amazing woman, okay? So she is an aplastic anemia survivor. She is a nursing student at UTMB. She's an aspiring doctor of nursing practice and a health and fitness advocate. So at the age of 16, Katelynn was diagnosed with a deadly but treatable disease called aplastic anemia. While her friends were going through high school and doing normal teenage activities, Katelynn was fighting for her life and had to undergo an intense immunosuppressive treatment that had a 50% chance of working. Throughout her treatment, she took matters into her own hands and started to educate herself on her illness, nutrition, and fitness. Because of her will to live and her passion for life, Katelynn was able to turn what was supposed to destroy her into the very foundation for her to create and live a successful and healthy life. So today, Katelynn celebrates 6 years of being in remission and advocates for others to take care of their health through fitness and nutrition and education. She is a walking miracle, and I am honored to have her here to tell her story and empower others to overcome their adversities.
Wow.
So, thank you for being here.
That's an amazing intro.
Yes. I mean, I had to for my amazing guest. Come on. I'm so excited to have you here. And even though we've been friends for years, we haven't really sat down and talked about, what happened to you.
Yeah.
Because I think when this was happening to you, I was also still finishing my treatment. So I don't think we've had time to really talk about it. So I'm actually really excited.
Yeah, I think it's long overdue, for
It
sure.
is. Yes, it is. So I'm really excited for you to tell your story and honestly be inspired by you because, like I said, you're a survivor. First question I want to ask is, I just want to know a little bit about you. What was your life like before you got sick?
Wow. So before I got sick, I played sports my entire life. I was just kind of the normal teenager. I will say I just ate whatever I wanted. I ate Twinkies, I ate ramen, I ate just whatever was available. And so I don't know, I think that my diagnosis was a little bit of a surprise to me. But looking back on the information that I have now, it's not, you know. I was a normal kid before I was diagnosed.
And I remember you were like a volleyball superstar, you know? And I always remember you was the really tall girl. It was beautiful. I was how is this even possible? But yeah, and then you fell ill. So what happened?
It was so weird. I remember one day in volleyball practice where I just was so tired. I couldn't even serve the ball without needing to take a break, you know? And I remember I went to my dad and he was like, you're probably just out of shape. And I was like, okay. And so I truly thought that I was out of shape. And so I remember going to the track and running 100-meter sprints because I was I need to get back in shape. This is not okay. And I remember just feeling like I was going to pass out. And so that, for me, was my turning point. I was like, something's wrong. I don't feel good. I had bruises everywhere. My lips were white, super white. And so basically, I went to my doctor, my primary care physician, and she said, are your lips always that white? I was like, no. And so we ran a few tests, and she basically came back and was like, this is an emergency. You need to go now to the emergency room up at Texas Children's. I had 0 platelets. And for those of you who don't know, a normal platelet count is 150,000 to 400,000. So I had 0 platelets. I remember I had a hemoglobin of 9.2. And for those of you who don't know, 12 is normal. And then my white blood count was 2.1 with 4 being normal. So my numbers were pretty decreased. So then I went to the hospital, and all the doctors came in and they were like, look, we don't know what this is, but we think it might be leukemia. And at that point, at that point I was scared. I was 16 years old, and so I kind of just waited for more definitive results. And they came back and they're like, okay, like it's not leukemia, which I was, very thankful for.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And so then they just told me that it was aplastic anemia, an autoimmune condition.
That the normal platelet count is 150,000 to 400,000, and you had 0?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a complex question, but like, how does this even happen?
So I have a couple of theories on why and how it happened. One of the main theories that I have is that I was born 3 months early. And so being born so early, you have a higher chance of developing disease. And I was never breastfed, which means I never got those antibodies from my mom. There's also a link between, a correlation, I guess I would say, between childhood trauma, and autoimmune diseases. And
Yes.
I had some trauma.
Uh-huh.
So I think that could have definitely played a role in my diagnosis. Not to mention the fact that I didn't eat good growing up. But I think it was just kind of a combination of things that kind of just created the perfect storm.
How long did it take for them to diagnose you? Was it quick, or were you in there for a while?
It was pretty quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you heard this name, aplastic anemia, like, because I remember being diagnosed and hearing my diagnosis and being like, the heck is this? What was your reaction? How did you feel in that moment?
Oh my gosh, I remember just being like, oh, I hope this is nothing big. Because at the point I was like, well, I'll just like take some medicine and I'll be fine. But I remember being so like scared when I finally found out what it was. Because it is a hard disorder to treat and to stay in remission. And everybody's body reacts differently to treatments. And I think for me, I just wanted, at that point in time, I wanted to be healthy and I wanted to finish high school. And I didn't want to worry about this,
Like I said, your will to live and our passion for life, it came through. So what is aplastic anemia?
So aplastic anemia is basically when your bone marrow just kind of stops working. It can be for an unknown reason, chemicals, viruses, anything that attacks your bone marrow, and then your body attacks its own bone marrow. And so there's a decrease in your white blood cells, your red blood cells, and your platelets. And basically, the treatment that I underwent is just like an immunosuppressive treatment. And I mean, that for me was, that was rough. Yeah, it was rough. But for me, it put me into remission. And autoimmune disorders, I guess I feel like there's not enough education on diet and autoimmune disorders, because we know that autoimmune disorders, there is lots of inflammation in the body, and so acute inflammation is good, but chronic is not good. No. You don't want chronic inflammation going throughout your body all the time, because we know that makes DNA damage and then cancer and just a bunch of stuff, that you don't want.
I did some research, of course, about your illness, and this is a pretty serious illness. I just want to say, and I hope you know this, like, you're a miracle.
Oh.
Like, you know, you're a walking miracle, and, like, you need to look in the mirror every day and be like, yo, like, I'm a miracle. Because, you know, I was reading about this illness, and I had, you know, I've heard about bone marrow, but it's never, my disease is never really, like, actually, I think it did now that I think about it. So, wow. But, you know, I learned about bone marrow, and bone marrow, like, makes the components of your blood that you need to survive. So, you mentioned, like, the red blood cells that carry oxygen, white blood cells that prevent infection, and platelets that control bleeding. Therefore, the absence of bone marrow is fatal since it's an essential part of your body, and you were at 0.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense, you know? So I'm just glad that you're here, because this could have gone so many ways.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So now I really want to talk about your road to recovery. So once you got diagnosed, what happened after that? Let's talk about your treatment, and then also your plan of recovery, because this is something I've realized. Sharing my story, hearing other people's stories, is that we kind of have to create our own plan.
For sure, 100%. Yeah.
So I want to hear about your plan.
Yeah. So once I was treated in the hospital, I came in for regular blood transfusions and platelet transfusions for a little while, and then my body started making its own cells. And so at that point, I didn't need any more intervention in the hospital. And so after that, I was like, okay, I need to educate myself. I need to know what I have to do to give my body the best chance at staying in remission. And so I did the research. I found stories of people with the same diagnosis and how they stayed in remission, and how they avoided ultimately getting a bone marrow transplant. Because that, for me, that was worst case scenario, is a bone marrow transplant. But I basically just educated myself on what an autoimmune disorder is, and we know that it's characterized by remissions and exacerbations. And so the exacerbations can be really dangerous for me, especially because we worry about infections, we worry about bleeding, we worry about just complications, really. And so for me, it was just about learning what I needed to do to make sure that I stayed in remission. And so that meant diet, that meant exercise, that meant controlling my stress levels, that meant just reducing the inflammation that I could, what I could control. Because there's a lot that I, couldn't control, but,
That's like the same thing I did, you know, because in those moments you realize, like, I'm not really in control right now. And you start to be like, okay, well, what can I control? I want to talk about this because this is really important, but your support system, tell us about that, because you had a lot of support.
I remember, so I was diagnosed in high school, and I had so much support behind me. I am truly eternally thankful for the support that I had. My team and my school created GoFundMe for all my medical bills, and shout out to y'all. Thank every single person that donated, because that honestly, that was a part of the reason I was able to get the treatment that I got. And so my family was a big support, and I had amazing doctors. I will say I had amazing doctors throughout my treatment, and Texas Children's is an amazing hospital. I will say that. They were awesome. So I had so much support from every part of my life, and so I don't think I would be here and like who I am without them.
No, shout out to Texas Children's. Texas Children's best hospital in the world, in my opinion.
Yes.
The first case of aplastic anemia was reported in 1888 and was considered a terrifying and mysterious disease. But today, today, it can be successfully treated
Yes.
in almost all patients. I really want to emphasize on that because that's a part of your advocacy. If you want to advocate for yourself, you need to know, is this a treatable illness? And this is a treatable illness. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So aplastic anemia is a scary diagnosis. I will say that. But it is treatable, and the fact that we have so many treatments and things that we can do. If I was diagnosed with this disorder 100 years ago, I would have been, dead. But now, like, we have so much information, and it's really a disorder that we can just live with, and you can just control your symptoms. And with the right education, I would say just educate yourself. Really,
Yes.
take control of your education, and don't just take the information from doctors. Of course, listen to them, but do your own research, I would say.
But establish that this is a treatable illness. Now, you did go through a treatment that had a 50% chance of working that turned into 100. What was that treatment?
Oh, yeah. So it was an immunosuppressive treatment. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And basically, I couldn't tell you the exact mechanism of the treatment, except for it suppressed my immune system. But I remember it was a really bad treatment. It was horrible. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like excessively shaking because I had an allergic reaction to it, which most people do. But I was shaking for the first 48 hours. I was like compulsing, and I remember having like really bad bone pain, and I remember we couldn't even get Tylenol for the pain. Like we were trying to get Tylenol, and the provider was just like, no, and I was like, oh, this is horrible. But
Wow.
After that treatment, basically I just came in about 3 times a week, check my blood levels, and the goal was to have my reticulocyte count above, I think it was 0.101 to 0.04. And basically what that is that's just a number that tells the physician that your body is making its own. It's like the baby blood cells.
Okay.
Yeah, so it just tells the physician that your body's making new blood cells. And so I kind of just progressed, and I was really anxious, to be honest, because there was only like a 50% chance that the treatment would work. And so I remember being so stressed out every single appointment, because I was like, well, if this doesn't work, I have to get a bone marrow transplant, And so I didn't want to get a bone marrow transplant. And so eventually, I think it was like the 4th week after my treatment, I remember coming in, and I was super sick. I had this horrible cold. I was just like, I feel horrible. And so she came in, and she was like, guess what? And I was like, no way. She was like, your body's making red blood cells. And I was like, it was one of the greatest days for me. I remember me and my mom went out and celebrated after for lunch, and it was a great day. So after that, I kind of just monitored my blood cells, and I stayed at home because I was still immunocompromised. I remember I wore a mask outside going to stores and stuff because, didn't want to catch any infection or anything like that when my body's trying to heal itself. But that's just kind of what happened after treatment.
Wow. Well, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy that it worked. And so your will to live is very inspiring, because although you were stressed, it didn't matter, because your desire to live overcame. That's like when you go through these treatments, I know because I've been through them, you know, you don't really have the energy to do much, especially in the beginning. So when did you start, like what got you into like fitness? When did you start really healing yourself?
It's funny. So I've always loved sports. I've always I had a love for working out really. And so the diet part didn't really come into play till after I got sick. And it just came when I started educating myself really about my illness, about autoimmune disorders, and just about like foods that you can eat to help decrease inflammation in your body. And really, like for me, I don't know, I think that when I started doing low impact exercises, I started eating better, it's just about giving your body the best chance. Like you're like, you can't control everything that happens to your body, and there's no guarantee, right? There's no guarantee that eating healthy and exercising is gonna make the difference. But why not?
Yeah.
You know? Why not put your body in a position to win, to be healthy?
Yo, but the thing is, like, it does work.
It does. I 100% believe that it does work. And unfortunately, some like medical professionals don't think so. And for me,
Well, clearly it works. Okay.
And the thing is the biggest. So in nursing school, we learned about a lot of different disorders. But for me, the biggest indicator for me that proved that there is a correlation between diet and health is type 2 diabetes. We know that when people overload their body with sugar and processed food, your body is pumping out so much insulin, eventually the organ stops producing good insulin. And so it's a direct correlation. So food and crappy food, it hurts your body. Like it's amazing to me that doctors sometimes, I'm sorry, not all doctors. Some doctors just don't see the correlation. So
no, but there is, because you know, you survived, I survived through fitness, and to this day you're still working out. So you know, fitness, not only is it like I honestly, this is something that I realized like a few months ago, but like when you and I we almost died, you know. We were saying goodbye, you know. So whenever I work out or I dance, like for me it's a celebration of my life. And when you're like, and even if you haven't gone through an illness, moving your body is still a celebration of your life. That movement, it like translates to your mind, you know. And in the end, I feel like we used our minds, you know, like the power of your mind, it is very powerful. And because you wanted to survive, you know, you did everything you could, which it all started in your mind. Like I know that you were physically moving, but it all started here. And now, you know, this illness, it was meant to destroy you, but if anything, it helped you create a life most people don't get to experience, because when you've never been sick, you don't realize that this Chick-fil-A sandwich is destroying you. You know, after you got your treatments and after you started working out, how long was it until you like finally were like, okay, I'm good, I just have to maintain this?
So I would say it took about 2 years. 2 years, because my blood counts kind of fluctuated for the first 2 years, and let me tell you, that was stressful. It's stressful because you don't know, when my blood counts go down, you kind of just don't know if they're going to go back up. It's just kind of like, okay, they're down right now. What if I go in next appointment and they're down again and again and again? And then at that point, you know, they consider bone marrow transplant and stuff like that. But yeah, my blood counts just kind of fluctuated for the first 2 years. And then after that, they kind of just stayed at their kind of normal-ish range.
Okay. So patience.
Yeah.
Patience was a huge thing. And that's one thing, especially nowadays, we've become very impatient. And if you're going through any illness, you need to be patient. Because as we can see, and through your story, my story, other people's stories, it took a while for this stuff to develop, you know, but because, and you know this, the diagnostic criteria is designed to diagnose illnesses that are already very active. You know, you're not able to catch them. So this probably took a while to develop. It's going to take a while to heal. So patience. Can you talk about that? Yeah.
Patience is hard, honestly, for a lot of people, because it's the unknown. You know, you don't know what's gonna happen, and that's scary. A lot of people don't like the unknown. You know, I don't like the unknown, and so staying positive and being patient and just trusting the process is so hard, but it's so necessary.
It is.
It's so necessary. Because living in a state of stress and constant worry and anxiety, it's not good for your health.
It's not.
And so really just finding your support group and who your family and just people who love you. I would say that's my biggest advice for people struggling with health anxiety, autoimmune disorders that have exacerbations and remissions. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to be patient and to just wait for health, but I would say just find your support.
Yes, find your support and make every day meaningful the much that you can. I know when I was sick, you know, I would dedicate, because I honestly I had a lot of free time because I was recovering. So I would dedicate each day, because there was a point like I couldn't walk, so I was like, okay, today I'm gonna watch this movie. Today I'm gonna go on this walk here at this location, you know. And then once I started working out, it was like, okay, today I'm gonna do this workout, or I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and like before you know it, you're okay. Why? Because you're actually learning to be happy. You know, you're learning to be grateful. Those little strides of progress, you know, they add up. I really love your story because like I'm inspired right now by you, because like you can survive. Like this is proof that you can survive and you can live a healthy life. So for people going through aplastic anemia, right now they are going through it. This is for the people who are going through it. What advice would you give them?
Just one piece of advice, or multiple?
Anything you want to say.
Wow. I would say, going back to what we said earlier, just be patient. And this disease is so hard. It's so hard mentally. I struggled a lot. Because, like I said, just the unknown, not knowing what's going to happen, because this disease can cause so many complications, and you really don't know what's going to happen. And so I would say just be patient and educate yourself. Educate yourself outside of the doctors. Know the mechanism of your disease and what affects it, what positively affects it, what negatively affects it. And just like, I don't know. I really feel like education is the most important thing that you can do for yourself, because so many people in my nursing clinicals, there's so many people that don't have just basic health like information, that I'm just like, how did you not know that? Which I'm not judging them for, because not everyone, you know, has that information or that resource, those resources. But education, for sure.
Yes, that's where your power lies.
For sure.
In educating yourself. And I think there's a correlation between education and remission, because most of the people who I know who get into remission, you know, they took matters into their own hands. So that's really important. And we want to empower y'all to take matters into your own hands. Do not let the label or diagnosis control you. You control it. In those moments where you and I were really sick, like, we realized, I don't do something about this, the life I want to live is over. So, and now we know that we can overcome and we can take control of our minds and our bodies and our health. Now, 6 years later, reflecting on it, how did this change your life for the better?
You know, it's weird. Every time I go through something super traumatic or something so hard, a trial of some sort, I always look back and I'm like, wow, that's why. That is why that happened. And so, oh man, I'm sorry. I'm getting emotional. I truly believe that this diagnosis was meant to happen because it made me who I am. I'm so much stronger for it. I truly feel like my diagnosis has given me so much, and I truly believe that the benefits outweigh the trials. Like, I truly believe that I would not be who I am today without this diagnosis. And without this diagnosis, I don't believe that I would have the knowledge that I have now, and now I'm able to influence people and let them know that they can be healthy, and they don't have to just be victims of food and sedentary lifestyles, and they can feel good. You know, I think for me, I'm thankful. That is really just the root of what I feel for my diagnosis. So
yes, wow. I have to clap. Like, wow. Your journeys and your will to live, because I really want to emphasize on that. Your will to live will give you purpose. Katelynn is someone who lives within her purpose. Like, she really does, because her diagnosis really led her to loving herself, to taking care of herself, and now she lives within her purpose. I mean, now she's literally going into the health field because she wants to make impact and she wants to give back to the profession that saved her life. You know, she's a fitness advocate, health advocate. Yeah, so let's talk about that. You know, you have your Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, are you taking any clients or anything like that yet, or are you just more into taking care of yourself and sharing that?
I've actually always wanted to do that, but I mean, with nursing school and stuff, it's just really not in the cards for me. So as of right now, I'm kind of just sharing information and advocating and just, you know, trying to be an example for other people, really, through my social media.
Yes, so Tripp Fit, y'all. Yes, very valuable information, very great workouts. You know, this is the queen of body right here, so I can tell you that right now. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm really inspired by you, and I'm honored that you came to share on my platform. My biggest takeaway from your story is to just take power back into your own hands and have a powerful mindset, you know, have a positive mindset. Control what you can control. This is not the last time Katelynn's going to be here. We have a lot to talk about. So I just want to thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And I'm just honored to have you in my life, you know, and you're a miracle. And so guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to leave her information down in the description below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.